Hello. This video is a continuation of our discussion about residential lighting applications. So we've already covered what a quality lighting solution looks like for residential design and talked about different kinds of transitional spaces. Let's continue by talking about some specific tasks that might happen in various locations in your residence. Our first example here of task-specific illumination is for the task of reading. It's important to plan some effective lighting anywhere where you expect reading to occur in frequent or prolonged action. And here's one example of a reading location at the bed. Many people read in the bed. And so you've got a task light source here, and it needs to be pointed at the reading material. All right, you can't have it on the opposite direction, pointing at the back of the book. You need to have it pointed towards the reading location. And here's another example of a area where frequent and prolonged reading might occur, and that's a little window nook. In this case, they're not providing any artificial light source for this area, but using natural lighting. It's important to locate your task-specific illumination for reading carefully. And here's one way that your book suggests you take a look at the anthropometric data. And that's simply the measurements or the heights or the sizes of your clients. For example, for reading, the light shade should be roughly at the height of your seated user. And so if it's too high, if your lampshade is actually too high, you're going to get some direct glare for that user. And if it's too low, you may not have the right light distribution. So you'd like to know exactly how high your client might be sitting. Here's another example of task-specific illumination, and it's for writing and for computer use. It turns out we frequently use the same surface for both writing and for computer use, but they have very different illumination needs. So see my desk here, and we typically use desks and tables for both tasks. So on the left right here, we have a plan view of a luminaire that's appropriate for reading and writing. If you have a right-handed person, the luminaire could be to the left of the person. And if you have a left-handed person, you might put the luminaire to the right. Just like for reading in the last slide, the bottom of the shade of that luminaire should be approximately level with the eyes of the user. On the right-hand side, we have the same desk, but now they're using it for computers and not for writing. The best solution here is for a luminaire to be above the user and to provide diffuse light. And it could be located to the left, the right, or in front of the user. Now, how do you balance these two needs, given that many people use the same surface for these two uses? And the answer is in that layers of lighting concept. You actually need to provide the lighting for both of these uses and have them be controllable so that the user can set it, can choose what they need at that point. Here's another task-specific illumination, and that's conversations. So in rooms which you're planning for conversations, you need to design your lighting to encourage and enhance the conversation. You want to have a relaxed lighting scheme and be sure to enhance the facial features of the people. You need to plan to avoid glare and especially prevent shadows on your users. And so here's an example of a conversational setting. There are some spaces in a residence that are dedicated to a particular task. And so we're going to move on to these dedicated spaces. And the first one is a kitchen. So, in a kitchen, you need to specially consider the food preparation and the food cleanup in your lighting design. And it's very, very important to include layers of lighting in kitchens, okay? Because you may be performing a critical task in one area and you absolutely need some task light, but of course you also need the ambience, and we'll throw in that accent and decorative. So here's a couple of examples. First of all, on the left-hand side here, we have a kitchen with ambient lighting. That's these recessed spots up here. Okay. We have task lighting at the bar here with the pendants. And it's hard to see, but there's some accent lighting inside these cabinets with the glass fronts. Here's a second example, very similar. In this example, we have ambient lighting being provided by these square recessed, and I'm guessing it's also some skylights up here. That's hard to tell. We've got task lighting being performed by some under cabinet lights. And we've got accent lighting in these display cabinets up above. In dining rooms, it's important to position your light sources carefully, eliminate glare direct into someone's eyes, and also avoid shadows. This is one of those conversational areas where people want to sit around the table and be seen. The size and location of your luminaires should be carefully planned in the dining room, and there's an example right here where the pendant is too small for this large room. All right, so that is an example of a mismatch in scale. Also, it's too high up off the table. Here's an example of a dining room with layers of lighting. And so what we've got here are, let's see, the recessed spots are the ambient lighting. Okay. The task lighting is being performed by those recessed lights that are closest to and directly over the table. And we've got decorative lighting over here on the far wall with these wall sconces, and also this beautiful chandelier, which is probably providing a little bit of task lighting too. But it looks like it's mostly a glow, so that one is really a decorative fixture. So where should you place a light fixture over a dining room table? There's a couple of rules of thumb. And one is that you want it at least 30 inches above the table, right there. And if if your ceiling height is greater than 8 feet, so if you've got a 9-foot, 10-foot, even higher ceiling height, you want to gradually increase the height of your pendant over the table, all right, because it will match the scale of the room. Also, you need, for safety reasons, to have your chandelier be at least 6 inches narrower than the table on either side, because as people get up from the table, they tend to lean forward, and you certainly don't want any safety issues. Here's a little more nuanced infographic that I found for you about hanging your dining room chandelier. And it says that in general, for every foot that you add of your ceiling height, add about 3 inches to that height of the light fixture above the table. Make sure that if you have a candle fixture, the light bulbs are not too close to the ceiling because they can be quite tall. In general, larger lights can hang higher. Right? A smaller light might need to hang a little bit lower, okay, for it to feel right in the space. So for a typical 8-foot ceiling, the bottom of the fixture should be between 30 and 36 inches above the surface, which is what the last slide said also. And it also reminds you to make sure the chandelier is actually higher than the heads of the people sitting at the table. That's so it doesn't interfere with anyone's sight line. You don't actually want someone to be looking directly at your chandelier. It needs to be above the sight lines. The last dedicated space that we're going to consider today are bathrooms. It's very important to provide a safe environment in a bathroom. So here's a couple of examples. In the left-hand picture or example, we have some recessed lights in the ceiling, giving us some good illumination in a shower. On the right hand over here, it says the floor next to the shower is often slick. We know this problem, right? So let's make sure to illuminate this area and keep our users safe. And here's one way to do it with some toe kick lighting. The other special illumination criteria in bathrooms is for the grooming task, applying makeup, doing your hair, shaving. They all have special requirements for illumination. You need to provide accurate color rendering. You need to provide enough lighting for clarity. And you need it to be uniformly distributed so that, for example, you don't have just one direct light down and large shadows cast on your users' faces. So here's an example of some pretty good lighting design in a bathroom, and it has light fixtures on each side of the mirror to provide that even distribution of light for the grooming task. All right, everybody. In this video, we covered some of the task-specific and dedicated spaces in a residential lighting project. Thanks, everyone.